Hi guys, how are you?
Good, how are
Hi.
you?
Good. Yeah. What do you guys have going on this week? Still recovering from the Thanksgiving holiday?
Definitely.
Mhm.
Yes, I just got back. We went to Miami to visit my family, so it's, getting back and
Mhm.
unpacking and all that fun stuff.
What about you, Erin? Did you stay down in Florida for Thanksgiving?
We stayed here and it was just me and Jack and our neighbors knew. So our neighbors that are like 84 or something invited us over for dinner and it was
Oh my
really
gosh.
cute. Like it was
Oh,
really,
Ah, that is absolutely adorable. They're gonna be like your adopted grandparents now.
literally, they had
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Oh my gosh. So I know Erin and I have talked a lot about how traveling with art conditions is super difficult. And I know for me, even when I'm traveling somewhere I'm excited about, I'm still just like, oh gosh, I have to leave my bed. I have to leave my house. How does that work out for you?
yes. So for me, I think the hardest part of traveling is actually learning a new space. It can
Mhm.
get really frustrating, especially when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, where the heck is the bathroom?
Yeah.
Like that's really tough.
Mhm.
But this past summer, I had a lot of experience with traveling by myself. Um, I made a couple trips home to Miami for just different like wedding planning things.
Mhm.
And I think the most interesting part about that is when you don't have a significant other or a family or friend to help you out, you're relying on a stranger when it comes to being disabled.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is in Miami, a lot of those strangers who I had to rely on that worked for the airport, English was not their first language. So
Oh yeah.
having a language barrier and not being able to see them, so they couldn't communicate with their hands or anything else. It was definitely frustrating.
I never really thought about that, but of course, gestures and people who sort of talk a lot more with their hands, that would make a huge difference.
Yes, especially when, you don't speak the same language, then it's just where do we go from here? I can't see you, I can't understand
Yeah.
you. Um,
Right. And they can't really translate on their phone and just show it to you. That's not going to work out.
Exactly. That it makes it hard, but I'm the type of person where I always love to search for the silver lining. I think in any situation there's always a silver lining, so I just kept telling myself this is great practice. Whenever I find new hurdles or challenges, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to be that much more prepared the next time it happens.
Right.
Do
No, I
you
mean that's an awesome way to look at it. And for anybody who's watching, generally, I think the population has so many questions about vision loss, and a lot of people don't realize that it's on such a spectrum, and that you may have full vision loss or partial vision loss. Can you explain what level your disability is and how that works with you?
Of course. So, yes, you're entirely right. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about blindness is people don't understand that there is a complete spectrum. And so just because you may say you're completely blind, that doesn't mean that you can't see anything. 99% of the blind community still has remaining sight. I'm part of that 1%, maybe even smaller, because I actually have prosthetics. So I
Mhm.
have fake eyes that I wear and zero
Okay.
sight whatsoever. So I don't see light. I don't see anything. I had to have both of my eyes removed. So for me, it's just completely pitch black all the time.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so that definitely makes it tougher. That makes it even more impressive that you're traveling by yourself and doing all that. I mean, I can't even. I mean, I've been injured 2.5 years, and I haven't traveled outside my home by myself yet. So,
Yes, I'm fortunate because I have my seeing eye dog. Um,
Mhm.
I'm sure you guys can relate, but I feel like one of the biggest parts of being disabled that people don't talk about a lot is actually the emotional comfort that you feel and
Mhm.
discomfort. And when I'm
Mhm.
in new places and I don't have someone with me, whether it's, my husband or a family member, I'm very, I don't know if fearful is the right word, but uncomfortable,
Yeah.
disoriented. And so to have my guide dog there and just be able to reach down and feel him, it's such a comfort. So, going through the airport and hearing all these foreign sounds and all these strangers bumping into me, I just have to reach down and I know, okay, I have my dog. He's looking out for me. He's my eyes. And
Oh,
it helps a lot.
oh, that's wonderful. I can imagine that must be such a huge comfort. I mean, even I don't have a service dog at all, but even just my little one, when we take him out, I really like that he sort of distracts from the chair a bit. I find when we're out with our dog, people are so distracted by the dog, they barely even look at me. They're just like, "Oh my God, what's his name? He's so cute." I'm just like, "Yeah, this is George. He's great." And so it's really funny. I like that as well too, where I'm just like, "Oh, we're gonna go out with him so I can relax."
It's so funny you say that because that's definitely something I've noticed with blindness is when I go out with my white cane, I can't
Mhm.
see people. So, obviously I don't see them staring at me, but I can tell it's almost
Uh-huh.
like my emotional intelligence went up when my sight went away because I can kind of tell how people are feeling based on just, breathing or the way their voice sounds. And when I have my white
Right.
cane, like people are very timid of me. I won't have people talk to me very much. They'll kind of ignore me. But when I have
Mhm.
Kegan, my seeing eye dog, everyone's coming up. They have no idea that I can't see them. They just think, here's a girl wearing sunglasses with her big yellow lab. So it's an interesting icebreaker.
Wow. I
That
mean, that's pretty amazing. And I wonder if do people have when they do see Kegan, do they have a lot of questions about his job as being your service dog, or do they generally then kind of realize and then have questions for you?
I would say it's a mixed bag. I would say half the time people just want to pet him and tell me how cute he is and, ask his
Mhm.
name. And then the other half of the time I'll get questions like, what is this harness he's wearing? What is this for? And then that's when I segue
Mm.
into, oh, well, I'm blind. So I hold on to that. And he helps guide me. And then that will lead to
Right.
more questions like, how does he do that?
Mhm.
How can he take you anywhere? And that's when I, explain just about how a seeing eye dog works and the directions
Mhm.
that I give him. So that's always
That's
fun.
really cool. Yeah, I'm always amazed, and I don't know if you run into this, Erin, where people like neither Erin nor my dogs look like service dogs at all, and they would not make good service dogs. But I get so many people who are like, "Oh my gosh, is he your service dog?" I'm just like, "No, he
that
can't do anything helpful. Like, I love him, but no."
yeah, that happens a lot to me.
Yeah. I get a lot of questions about like, well, why don't you have a service dog? And I'm just like, I personally don't think I would benefit from one, so I'm not going to take that resource from another person who actually would benefit from it. And they're like, "Oh, but if you had one, you could take him anywhere." I'm like, it's not really
The point.
the reason you get one, but okay. Yeah. So how long have you had Keegan?
I've had him for 3 years.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, it was actually when I was in the hospital after my accident, it was
Hmm.
something I was so stuck on. I couldn't tell you who put the idea in my head, but I know that once my breathing tube was taken out, all I could talk about was, I want to get a seeing eye dog. And so it really gave me something to hope for and work towards. Um,
Oh, that's great.
yes, because in order to get a seeing eye dog, which a lot of people aren't aware of, you have to basically go through tests, if that makes sense. So you'll have,
Mhm.
like, you'll do an application, and I like to say it's a lot like a dating application. You put a lot about yourself, what does your day to day look like? What's your personality like? That way they can match you with the perfect dog. But then you also have to
Oh,
do an in person test where they send someone to you and they want to see what are your cane skills like? Can you cross a busy intersection with just your cane? Are you, can you walk safely by yourself? And that's because these
mhm.
dogs are incredible and they're so intelligent, but they're leading with my instruction. So he's listening to what I'm telling him
Right.
to do. So if I don't know my orientation or how to be safe, I'm putting him in danger.
Mhm. Wow. I didn't know that you and your dog both would have to be sort of equally well trained. That's amazing.
Yes, no, that was something I was unaware of. Because so my accident happened on May 31st of 2019, and my
Okay.
first exam with Guiding Eyes for the Blind, which is the school where I got him, was October 15th of 2019, so just a few months later.
Oh.
And the man, his name was Dave, who did the test with me, actually said, your cane skills are great. You just haven't been blind long enough. He probably said it in a bit of a different way, but his main point was you need to be more familiar with blindness so that you're comfortable, so your dog is comfortable. And so,
Wow. Okay. How long do they usually expect that time frame to be?
yes, so that was definitely interesting. I think a lot of people who are applying for guide dogs have been
Mhm.
blind, for a long period of time. I applied right after my accident, literally weeks
Mhm.
after. I couldn't wait.
Mhm.
So for me, it took me, I would say probably a year after the accident, I was ready for a guide dog, but then COVID hit, so the school closed down. Yes, so that was tough. But I would say for most people, like as long as your cane skills are where they need to be, most people are successful with getting a guide dog. They need to make sure that they're going to be placed in a safe home with someone who can safely work with them. So
Right.
definitely a learning curve.
Oh my gosh. And then I mean, because I know that, of course, we all had to go through acute rehab and learn different skills, and you have to learn how to be disabled in a strange way. But I'm curious. So, along with having to learn different cane skills and things, sort of what were the building blocks of your rehab
Yes.
instruction?
So the one that I look back on and actually like laugh about because it just goes to show how when you are disabled, like when you go through a traumatic injury, your whole reality shifts. I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks and I finally get home and immediately I come from a big family. There are 6 kids in my family and I'm a person that I put other people's needs ahead of my own. So I always want to make sure everyone else around me is doing good and then I'm doing good. So my first thing when I got home was I wanted to stay positive. So everyone's like, "What can we do for you?" And I said, "Let's all go out for pizza," because that's something we do a lot as a family. And we get to the restaurant and I couldn't eat. I didn't know how to decipher what's in front of me. I mean, there were so many hurdles in just that one instance where I realized I need to relearn how to eat food, how to figure out what's on
Yeah.
my plate, how to use my utensils, how to make sure the bite that I cut isn't huge and gonna get all over my face. So that was one of the first classes I took was basically home ec. You're learning,
Mhm.
how to orient the food on your plate. So you put a plate of food in front of you and I know the salad is on the 6 o'clock of my plate. The meat is on the 3 o'clock. Um,
Yeah.
and just figuring that out. And then with that, also, we learned the number one thing that I was told the first meeting I had. I went to a school called the Miami Lighthouse, and they teach you all of these different things. And the woman said to me, "Marin, you have to pick your head up." Because when I first lost my sight, I talked like this. I wouldn't look up at people. I was just looking down at my
Oh,
lap. And she said, "I know you can't see me, but in order to make other people comfortable, you have to look towards the sound of their voice." So that was really
wow.
interesting because I didn't think about that. And it's paid off in
Yeah.
tenfold because people always tell me, "Oh, I forget that you're blind because you look at me directly when I talk to you." So I know it
Hmm.
works, but you wouldn't think about that. Um,
Yeah.
so that was like definitely a big class I took. And then outside of that, I learned how to read and write in Braille, which was interesting. And then I also
Right.
learned how to use technology, which that was like the biggest saving grace of all.
I know. Thank goodness at least we're all disabled in the time of smartphones. It's
Honestly.
Mhm.
Right? And then to think being disabled and you're in your 60s, 70s, and now you have to learn how to use the technology.
Oh
Yes.
gosh. Well, and I hadn't even thought, of course, that eating would be so difficult. I mean, because on Erin and I's side, all that we had to relearn how to eat because we have to use special utensils, and there, we can't really cut because we don't really have hand function that'll allow us to get the right leverage and stuff. So I remember eating being really challenging for me too, and I would get really snarky and snippy with my family about it. Yeah,
No, it's
And
but no, I feel like it took me like a good 3 months to get comfortable eating on my own.
it's
yeah,
tough. And well,
Mm.
one of the things that also like played a role in my difficulty with it at first was I I fractured my jaw in the injury. So it was like I could only open it so much for the first month or two after the accident that I literally couldn't fit foods into my mouth. So that was also funny, was like I had to find the food on my plate and then I had to figure out how am I going to get it to fit in this little sliver. So
Oh my gosh. There's so many different layers to it.
yes, it was a hurdle, but we've come a long way.
Wow. And the two of you actually know each other through Jack, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, you guys haven't met in person yet, have you?
No.
No.
Oh my gosh, you guys, you're so close to each other. You have to.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, definitely. A road trip is in order.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yes. How long have you guys known each other?
I guess after you got injured, I think I went out to eat with, I don't remember if it was your mom or if it was your husband's mom.
Yes, it was Wesley's mom, Lisa.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Jack is friends with Wesley, and then we like went out to eat with his mom, which was really cool.
Like one of the things initially after the accident that I don't know if like bringing me comfort is the right term, but it brought me almost like a sense of stability because I was going through all of these things and I didn't know how, to stay positive and just to stay on top of things. And Lisa, Wesley's mom, as well as my family, would always like play me videos of you, Erin, like the videos you made. And it brought me so much emotional like stability and comfort to see, okay, here's someone who went through something similar to me in the sense that, one day you're fully capable and now you wake up the next day and you're disabled. And you stayed so positive, and that definitely like motivated me to stay positive and understand that like life brings adversity, but you just have to figure out how to overcome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's kind of just funny how like me and Jack stayed together and you and Wesley stayed together. Like I just think that's so awesome.
It's true.
No, it was the same with my husband. We were in our accident together as well. And yeah, so congratulations though that you got married. You said it was just last month?
Yes, yesterday was our 1 month anniversary. Yeah,
That's so great.
so exciting. But that's so interesting. So all three of us had our partners there at the accident.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
I guess so. That's such a weird commonality. Yeah.
that's crazy.
I wonder if that like plays a part in them like staying because they went through the trauma as well, kind of.
Maybe.
Yes.
Interesting.
Well,
I mean, yeah, because we've all heard the stats about how a lot of the time, especially when it's the woman that gets injured,
yeah,
man is out of there.
yeah. It's so true. And Wesley and I talk a lot about how what's so interesting is you see it time and time again. And just like you said, Laura, the stats show it. A lot of relationships, when they're met with trauma or adversity, they tend to, make the two people grow apart because they're trying to figure out how to cope on their own and they don't have the mental fortitude or space to bring that other person into it. But I find for Wesley and I, it was actually the opposite. We came closer together because we understood what the other person was going through because we were there every step of the way.
And I remember when I met Wesley's mom, she said the first thing Wesley did after he got hurt was make a list of all the things you guys could still do together. And that I was like, that is the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
Well,
that is amazing.
It was really, not to get morbid, but then I'm going to bring it back to positive. But initially after my accident, when I was in the hospital, I was on a breathing tube for a while, which that was the worst thing of all of it. Like I would not, that was horrible. And when I finally had it out and I was, coming down off the meds, that's when it really hit me. And the questions started pouring in of what's the rest of my life going to look like? How much joy am I going to have without sight? And that really hit me hard. And I did have a moment where I really had my mind set on legal euthanasia. I thought that was the best course of action, put myself out of misery, take away all of this from my family. And at that same time, Wesley had no idea that I was having these thoughts, and he just so happened to be writing that list. And so I told my parents what I was thinking, and my parents said, Marin, you need to talk to Wesley before you make any decisions. You have to talk to Wesley about this, because they knew that he was gonna like put me in my place, and he did. He said, Marin, what are you saying? Like, absolutely not. And he read me the list, and that was when everything changed, because that was the first time that I realized, wait, I can still do everything I love. I just need to find different accommodations. And the list was so sweet because it was so simple. It was, I can take you to Trader Joe's and we can find all the things on your shopping list together. We can go to the beach and feel the sand under your feet. It was such simple things, but
oh my God.
It really changed my whole outlook on everything.
I remember one of the things she said he wrote was, you guys could ride a tandem bike together.
Yeah.
I was like, I love that so much.
And we have.
That is so sweet. Oh my gosh. That is, I mean, and it really is, I think, the simple things that you end up really appreciating the most. I mean, for me, just if we're sitting in our backyard, and as much as I would love to be doing yard work projects with my husband, just being able to sit there with him and kind of chat with him and keep him company while he's doing stuff like that, I'll sit there in those moments just like, yep, this is what we survived for. This is it.
It's so true. And I'm a big believer in gratitude, or that's just how I like to start my days. And I think what you said goes hand in hand with that, in the sense that it doesn't need to be big, major things you're grateful for. It can be something as trivial as, I'm grateful that today I get to eat my favorite lunch, or today I'm going to wear a new dress I got at Marshall's. Like, it doesn't have to be something big. It can be something so simple, and it can change your whole outlook.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many weird little things that we always say, just like, I never thought you'd end up learning all these things about women and about fashion, about helping with all sorts of weird little things. I always joke about it with my husband, and I feel like there's never an end to it.
Yeah. It's so true. I call Wesley my personal stylist.
I love that.
Because it's true though. And, before I lost my sight, Wesley would not, I could ask him to like grab me a dress from my closet and he wouldn't even know what to look for. But now it's like he's so in tune with it because he knows it matters to me. So therefore it matters to him.
And you have to find very specific ways to describe things that they will understand.
Yes.
Because I feel like I could say, like I made a video of like weird stuff my husband helps me with. And I was like, pink chiffon tank top. And he was like, I don't know what chiffon is. And I was like, right. You don't. Okay. You wouldn't, would you? Right. And I was like, it's ruffly and thin fabric. I don't know.
I hate it. I hate telling Jack what to get out of my closet, because he'll be like this, and it's just like the complete opposite of what I'm looking for. And I'm like, but it's just funny. It's so funny.
It does get frustrating though, but then you have to remind yourself, okay, they're helping me. I need to be grateful and not get annoyed. But it can be overwhelming because it's like, I know exactly what I want. If only I could just do it myself, it would be so easy. But
yeah, I mean, because in those moments when you find yourself getting frustrated with the person that's helping you, you're not really getting frustrated at them. You're getting frustrated at yourself because you're not able to do it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's why I realized, like, okay, even though I'm the one who's mad at myself, I need to remember that he thinks I'm mad at him. So stop.
Exactly. It was interesting because I was talking to someone about this last year, and I was explaining how what's so interesting with my disability is, and maybe this is a function of not being blind long enough, but I still don't feel comfortable with having emotions when it comes to family members, in the sense that I rely on everyone around me to assist with everything, whether it's, grabbing the right drink, grabbing the right clothes, just basic things that I feel like I can't get mad at them. I can't have opinions. I can't vocalize how annoyed I am, because then they're not going to want to help me. And that can be so overwhelming sometimes, to have to keep it all in and just like compartmentalize and recognize, okay, is it really worth getting upset over? Because then what if they don't help me find the bathroom? Like, it's tough.
It is.
Yeah. Well, and that's got to be probably the hardest thing to get rid of, because I feel like I've gotten better on that, but it's definitely still there. And that's that little bit of internalized ableism that's there, but also just building trust in those moments and stuff. It's complicated.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that reminds me of like,
yeah.
oh, sorry, Laura.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it reminds me, like, Laura and I will talk about how if you like get into like a little argument with someone and then you have to be like, oh, actually, can you grab my water for me?
Yes.
And you just like don't want to have to ask for help because you guys are like fighting, kind of.
It's so uncomfortable. And then you have to recognize and realize, okay, this isn't like, I have to ask for help. So I'm sorry. I know you're mad at me right now, but
well, and it's also too on their side. I've definitely had arguments with Sam, and Sam and I are both very stubborn people. So my number one thing is like, I'm not going to ask him for anything. Like, I would rather sit here in misery and not ask him for help. And I just think there's been times where he's had to come to me and be like, okay, do you want anything? Because like, I mean, I'm not going to not get you things. If you wanted a glass of wine, if you need me to grab something for you, like, I guess I'll ask you for them, but it's really hard. Yeah, my favorite thing in an argument used to be just storming out of the room, and that's not going to happen anymore.
Exactly.
No, and that's one thing that I can totally relate on is I don't have, like, we all three of us, we can't, when we are feeling overwhelmed and frustrated, we can't just pick up and leave the house and go clear our mind. Like, you can never get away from the situation. You have to allow the situation to get away from you. And that was one of the hardest things for me when I first lost my sight, was I had to figure out, okay, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I need my space, how do I achieve that if I can't actually, go do that for myself? And AirPods are a saving grace. I'll say that. I love my AirPods.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I used to love going on a drive and like, screaming along with the music and clearing my head. But, I still don't drive because I'm still working on panic and anxiety in the car and stuff like that. But yeah, when you can't do that, and then you're just like, I guess I'll just go in another room and listen to a podcast. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I am curious when it comes to we talked about like being in new environments and things like that, and how it can be really disorienting, of course, for you. When you go over to somebody's house for the first time, or you go to a hotel or something for the first time, what makes it the easiest for you to kind of acclimate to a new space?
So Wesley is incredible. Like, he's definitely been on the same journey as me, in the sense that while I'm learning to be blind, he's been learning how to help someone who's blind. And he, like, when I don't have him on trips, it's noticeably worse because most people don't know how to accommodate for my visual impairment, but he really does. So one of the things that he does that I absolutely love is like, we'll step into a hotel room and I know I'm at the door. Like, I'll have my back to the door entering the hotel room, and he'll basically grab my hand and he will map it out. So he'll say, okay, you're here, the door's behind you. If you were to walk this way, like, the bed's going to be right here, and then the bathroom will be to your left. So he will like draw it out on my hand, and then he'll grab like my arm and we'll walk through the room together, and I'll feel where everything is. It's like, I feel like the things that I need to map out the most when I stay in a new place is, where's the bathroom? And then how do I get myself outside? Because I have to take my dog out at least 5 times a day.
Right.
So as long as I have those two down, I feel like then I'm set up for success. So I went to the school to receive my guide dog, and you have to train on campus for 11 days, and you're there alone. Like, you can't have a family member stay with you. And so that was the first time where I had to learn an environment without Wesley or a family member. And definitely there were like instances where I would just FaceTime my twin brother or Wesley and ask like, hey, can you tell me where this is? Or how do I work this? And again, like, that's where technology, I really don't know where I would be without it. because that definitely plays a big role in when I'm lost. Like, I just grab my phone, because you'd be surprised. Rooms are small, but I have gotten lost. Like, even the bedroom I'm in now, I sometimes get lost in, and I'm just like, okay, where am I and where's the door?
Wow. Well, yeah, because if you don't have any perception of light or anything to orient yourself in the space, I can see how that could happen.
Yes, and it happens quite often. I mean, like, going back to what I said a little back ago about, realizing, like, when I first initially lost my sight, there were so many things I didn't realize until I was met with that situation. So, for instance, I didn't realize that when I go to a restaurant, I'm going to need help finding the bathroom. So when we went out to dinner to a PF Chang's with my family, like right after the accident, and I had to go to the bathroom, I just said, hey, Wes, can you just take me to the bathroom door and I'll get myself in? Like, just drop me off at the bathroom door. And so he does. And I go into this huge bathroom in PF Chang's. I can't find the stalls. I can't find the sink. So I literally just stood there, like, I was feeling all the surfaces, trying to figure things out. And I finally just hit a point where I was like, all right. And I just stood there in the middle of the bathroom, just saying out loud, hello, I'm blind. Is anyone in here? And finally someone walked in and like helped me out. But it's interesting how, like, and I do think there's also a part of that is mental, right? Like, sometimes after losing your sight, or for you guys, like, I'm sure you reached points where it's hard to be bad at something that you used to be effortlessly amazing at.
Yep.
And that is something I'm constantly working on. Like, my patience is so slim when it comes to things that I used to be able to do without thought. And now I have to use like every single ounce of my mind to think about it, to do it, and not even do it well. Like, that's frustrating.
Yeah, totally. I know. I'm just in my mind, like, compiling a list of those things right now. But yeah, it's a lot.
Yes, and it can be stressful, but that's when, like, it sounds like for you guys too, you guys have amazing partners, and they make a world of difference when it comes to things like that.
They do. Yeah, I mean, just and on that vein, so for you, what's that one thing that like frustrates you the most?
I think, I mean, it sounds so, like, I can't say just not having sight, because that's so, I mean, so many things. Like, for, like, I could drop something and it could literally take me 2 hours to find it. And it's just a function of my hand missing it by the smallest amount every time I'm close to it. So that, like, I can't drop things. I hate doing that. But then my number one thing is computers. Like, I used to be so great at typing, and now I'm so bad at it that I just won't do it, because I hate being so bad at it that I just voice dictate everything, which is great. But then, you reach a point where you realize, okay, it's now been 5.5 years. Maybe it's time I start working on that skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Oh.
It's funny because like me and Laura could drop something and also not be able to get it just because we literally cannot grab it. Like, it's like, and we can't type because we don't have our fingers. So it's so funny because it's similar, but so
really similar struggles. I think right now I have an eye brush on the floor right now that I can get it, but it's gonna take a lot of effort.
Yeah, so it's like,
so I'm gonna sit there until I have the energy to do it. But yeah, and I know one of the ones for me is handwriting. Like, I used to love, like, writing notes, writing journal entries and letters, and I had great handwriting. And now, I mean, I can kind of write, but it's really ugly and it takes a lot of effort. Have you gotten good at writing, Erin?
No, not at all.
Yeah. It's so funny because, again, a similarity. I mean, for me, I was obsessed with my handwriting before I lost my sight. Like, I took it very seriously. I loved my notes in college and everything color coordinated. And then obviously, having zero sight, writing anything is near impossible. But for like our wedding, I wanted to handwrite the thank you notes. Like, that was important to me.
Wow.
And one thing that has come in handy is Wesley, my husband, he's very into 3D printing. And so he'll make a lot of things to accommodate my visual impairment. And one of them was genius. He basically made, like, say this is the thank you card shape. He made a stencil that went around the card and then used rubber bands to kind of like make lines for me to write on.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so I've been able to write the cards myself. And of course, I don't know what they look like. In my imagination, it looks like my niece wrote them. And from what I've it does. But, you know, it's just being able to write it myself, like, feels so great. And I wonder if it's the same for you guys. Like, it's not, you know, our handwriting will never be what it was, but being able to do it itself, like, does bring a big satisfaction.
Yeah, I need to practice a lot more. I think the first time I did it, I got really frustrated and I just, you know, I'll get around to doing this later. And I think that was a year ago now.
7 years for me.
I mean, yeah, voice text makes me very lazy. That's for sure.
I was curious too, do you ever use the Be My Eyes app?
Yes. So
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being like really honest, I will use it if I have to, like if no one's around or if I know that a family member can't answer a FaceTime. But I think I've always been this way, but now more than ever, like I'm very, I don't know if cynical is the right word or paranoid, because I wouldn't consider myself either of those, but I'm definitely very aware. And the whole concept of having a complete stranger, like, be able to see me through my camera and I don't know what they're looking at, sometimes it like freaks me out, especially because obviously you never know when you do the call. Are you going to get a man? Are you going to get a woman?
Oh, you can't choose that as a preference?
Not that I've seen.
Oh,
yeah.
I heard they changed some things, so like if you get someone you like, you can like request that person.
Oh, that's good to know.
I've heard that. I'm not
yeah.
positive, but
Oh, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I heard integrated it with like the Ray-Ban sunglasses now.
I saw that.
Which is pretty cool with the little camera on the glasses.
Which is so cool. It's incredible to see, like, just in the past year, how much technology has advanced when it comes to sight, has been incredible. And I'm definitely like, sometimes I'm tempted to buy something like that. But I feel like I've gotten so used to the way I do things for myself just around the house that I almost wonder if having someone else like giving me instruction and information on my surroundings would overwhelm me instead of like make things easier. Because
maybe
I don't know. Because even now, like, it's so wild when I think about how many things people are seeing in front of them. So like the concept of driving now to me is so crazy to think you have to watch out for stop signs, lights, other drivers. Like, you have to focus on so many things that I'm like, I genuinely can't imagine.
Oh, I mean, I'm with you with that. That's why I don't drive again yet.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
When I'm in the car and somebody else is driving, somehow everything seems way too close to us.
Me of like, I have a tilt table at home, and I told my mom, like, oh, get on it and try it. And she just stands it all the way straight up. And I'm like, oh, careful, you're going to fall forward. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, and just because in my mind, I'm like, how do people have balance like that? Because I don't get it anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When I watch people carry a bunch of things in their hands at once, and I'm just like, well, I don't think you can do it. Oh, wait, they can. Yeah, I forget what people's hands can do sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's right. They can hold like 6 mugs in a hand. That's fine.
That's true. Or even like sometimes I'll just be feeling lazy and like I'll be cold and I'll really want a sweater, and my husband will be like, why don't I'll go grab it for you. I'm like, really? Are you sure? He's like, of course. And he's back in 5 seconds. And every time I'm thinking, how do you do things so quickly? And he's like, well, Marin, it's the power of sight. Like, when you can see things, it's a lot easier to do things quickly. And it's just like what we were saying, Laura, before we started, like how it's so true, at least for you and I, that there's pre-accident and post-accident. And
Yes.
pre-accident Marin is inconceivable to post-accident Marin. I can't imagine driving a car. I can't even imagine seeing myself anymore. Like I can't clearly envision what I look like at all. Which is crazy because looks used to be such a big part of my life, like growing up, where everyone's so focused on clothing and makeup and your hair being just right. And now I forget that when I'm talking to people, they can see me. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should be careful of what I'm doing or how I'm looking because you're looking at me.
Well, and I just wonder too, I feel like there's got to be so many. I mean, I just had like the one, like the most awkward thought where, of course, if you don't know if it's going to be a man or a woman on that app, and of course they're looking at you, but you're not really seeing yourself. Like, I feel like I would have an irrational fear that my shirt would be too low. Do you ever have that fear that like you maybe if you bend over or something, you're flashing cleavage and you don't realize it?
It is so funny that you say that because that was the number one thing after my accident, which Wesley can attest to. I would not wear anything even close to low cut. Like I was just constantly in sweatshirts, hoodies, turtlenecks because I mean, even now, like I can feel that my sweater's right here, but I'm still always constantly aware of like, if I feel the breeze hit my chest, I know, okay, pull it up.
Gosh. So you must just like obsessively sort of touch at your chest to see where your shirt is. Oh my gosh.
Constantly. It's something and that's
Such
like,
a weird.
it's so weird. And that's also why I wear sunglasses. Because people are like that. I guess that's also why sometimes people will think that I can see light. Because a lot of times people in the blind community wear sunglasses because their eyes are really sensitive to light. But for me, it's because when I'm not wearing them, I'm constantly wondering, are my eyes looking the right direction? Is one eye like out of order? Because that happens a lot where like my prosthetic will all of a sudden just be pointing in a completely opposite direction.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I'm like always constantly wondering things about the way I look, or like this part of my face is still completely numb. So like I can't feel when there's like food in my gums or teeth on this side of my face. So I'm like constantly aware of that too.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Kegan.
Yeah, right? What are you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Come here. Down, down, down. I think Wesley just left, so he heard the door slam. Down.
Oh, I see.
Down. Boy.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like it's very similar to when you're somebody who has, paralyzed hands or you have a lack of balance or something like that. I'm always very, very careful to try to project like, I've got it under control. I don't have balance problems. But yeah, it's always funny. It's like you get so used to kind of covering those little things of your disability that then people get more confused.
Well, and I get like self-conscious to the point where I don't want to go try to do something. I'm like more worried about someone thinking I need help than actually needing help. Like I don't want to do something and have people be like, "Do you need something?" Like I get stressed about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, because I mean, we're always worried that our disability is going to make somebody else uncomfortable. Like you have to worry about holding your head up properly so that it'll feel like you're looking at somebody. Whereas, it doesn't really matter to you, but you have to do it to make somebody else feel comfortable.
When I am wearing something a little more low cut, I'll tell Wes, like, squeeze my hand if I'm flapping you. Like, if I need to make an adjustment, please let me know. But it's interesting though to hear, like it almost brings me comfort to hear you guys say, because that's something I do constantly is I find myself accommodating other people's comfort about my disability than I am accommodating my own disability. Like
I think we all do that at the detriment to ourselves.
Yes. And it's unfortunate because, it's a double-edged sword. Because on one hand, it's, okay, I can either make everyone else around me comfortable and therefore I'm comfortable, or I can make myself comfortable and everyone else around me is uncomfortable and then I become uncomfortable. So it's so hard to find that middle ground because I do the same thing where I've actually had people challenge me on my site because they don't believe me when I say I can't see them. Like, they truly don't believe me. And it gets to the point where
What?
I'm like, do you want me to take my eyes out and give them to you? Like, what do you need from me to
Oh my
know that, like,
gosh.
why would I lie about this? And it's just,
Yeah, I mean that's do they think that you can see completely or do they think you just maybe have partial vision loss? I'm just curious
yeah.
how far are they
So it's
taking
a
this?
mixed bag. I one time was waiting outside when we lived in Miami. We lived in an apartment, and I was waiting. And
Mhm.
so this woman comes up to me and she's talking to me about how handsome my dog is and how she has a dog, or she had a dog who looked just like him. And I could tell, because when she's telling me this, her voice was pointed down. So I could tell that she was looking at her
Okay.
phone, because why else
Yeah.
would she be talking like this? So I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, are you on your phone?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm just pulling up a picture." And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm actually completely blind." And
Yeah.
she was like, "Yeah, okay, sure." And like scoffed at me and stormed off. And I'm like,
Oh, that's so
I
rude.
was like, "What the heck?" And then other people will just say, "Oh, can you see light?" And I'll say, "No, I can't see light." And they're like, "Oh, but you can see shadows and stuff. Like, you can see shapes, you can see light." And I'll tell them, "No, I don't have eyes. Like, my eyes are no longer." And they're like, "Yeah, but you can
Yeah.
still see when the sun's in your face." And I'm just like,
Oh my gosh, how
what?
okay. At that point, I'm sorry. Like you're missing some marbles there because that's oh my
It
gosh.
blows my mind. But I always have to remind
Mhm.
myself that when I had sight, the thought of not having sight is inconceivable to someone who has it, because I feel like of all
Mhm.
of our senses, sight is the one that we are never thinking about because we rely
Yeah.
on it in every aspect of our lives, that
Right.
you never think about your sight. It's just there. It's a guarantee. And I'm sure you guys can
Mhm.
relate, because I'm sure for a lot of people it's the same with, function. Like, you don't think about your legs and how they
Mhm.
can get you from one place to another. They just do. So,
Right. Yeah, and when you work so hard to cover your disability and you get so comfortable doing that, I did have it happen one time where I went to a restaurant and I was getting into a bit of a tiff with the hostess and she went like, "Could you even get into the high tables?" I went, "Well, no, I can't because I'm in a wheelchair." And we were trying to figure out if we could get to the restaurant next door, if there was an elevator. And she said, "Well, can't you just get up and walk up the stairs?"
Yeah.
And I said,
oh,
no, like this isn't for
And
kicks.
that
I'm
happens to me. And
definitely cannot."
I wonder if it's because we're younger. So they just think, oh, we must be able to
Hmm.
stand like for a minute.
uh,
Because that,
Yeah, that it must be an intermittent issue or semi-ambulatory or something. I was just like, I don't even know what to say to you after this.
it's
Yeah, I look back now and I'm just like, I don't know why I just didn't tell her to fuck off. But
I don't either. I get too scared that I'm going to upset someone.
I'm the same way.
yeah.
And it's also a function of, like, I always ask myself, is this really worth it? Like,
Yeah.
is it worth
Mhm.
my emotional capacity to, like, really care what this person is saying to me? And then when I'm in situations like that, I just
True.
remind myself that, okay, silver lining, I'm doing such a good job not showing my disability that they're challenging me on it. Like, okay, so
Mhm.
at least I know I can look like I have eyes.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess when somebody says some sort of one-off rude comment, it's probably not worth it. The only time I feel like it very much is worth it is when people start sort of prying without knowing anything about you.
I like, most of the time, I don't even tell people I'm blind. Like, if I don't feel the need
Mhm.
to, I don't, because I have the same issue where
Mhm.
sometimes I'm just in this mindset where I'm like, you know what? I'm not in the mood to be pitied. So I just don't even mention that I'm blind,
Mhm.
because it's just,
Yeah.
that's like, I don't know if you guys have ever had that, but for me, I think the thing that really would upset me after the accident was how often people would praise Wesley for staying with me. Like, almost
Yeah.
basically telling me
Mhm.
that I'm not worth being loved. That, like, he's a great
Mhm.
person for loving me, because who could love someone disabled? And
Mhm.
of course, I agree with them. Wesley's an incredible person, but he's not an incredible person for being with someone who's disabled. He's an incredible person because he's incredible. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Right. And that his love for you is not predicated upon
My disability.
how your body is going to work and how
Sure.
you interact with the world. It's you.
Yeah, and people are always on my social media, like, trying to figure out in the comments, like, well, he must have stayed because of guilt, because he sat on the hammock too. And I'm like, why are you trying to figure out why he stayed? Why can't it just be because he loved me?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've followed you, Erin, for a while now, and I see from your videos, what's so upsetting about that is, like, as someone who watches your videos, I'm always constantly thinking how strong you are, how positive you are, how funny you are. That these people shouldn't be questioning, why is he with you? They should be saying, oh my gosh, they make such an incredible couple because they're both such incredible people who persevere. Like, I
Thank
wish
you.
the narrative could change and people could understand that it's offensive to say that.
Yeah. Well, and what's wild is that if you're saying something like that, you're basically saying that if your partner became disabled, you wouldn't stay.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like that's the root of what's happening is that people are going, oh my gosh, if my partner ended up like that, I'd be out of there. Like, that's, I mean, right? Why would you say that otherwise?
That exact thing too. I'm
Yeah.
like, why are you outing yourself as a horrible person?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Why are you just advertising that you have like zero loyalty to the person you love? Oh my gosh. Well, and also when people say things like, I could never do what you do, and I'm just like,
Myself.
it's inspiring that I didn't die
Yeah.
or that I did. Like, really? So you're basically saying that you don't think you would have the strength to keep going if something like this happened to you. That's what you're telling me?
It's one time I'm in an elevator with just me and my dog and someone in the apartment building dropping off groceries. And this man straight up says to me, first he asks, can you see anything? And I said, no, I'm completely blind. And he goes, oh my gosh, I was getting high with my friends last night and we were all saying we would rather be set on fire than lose our sight. And I'm just standing there like, what am I meant to say to that? Like, what are you trying to tell me, that I should go set myself on fire? Like,
You know what? You should just say, you know what? It sounds like you deserve that.
yeah, right?
I think that would be a great route for you.
Like,
I don't understand.
no, I mean,
I mean, and I just don't understand when somebody says that, what response are they expecting?
exactly.
Like when that leaves their mouth, what do they think is going to come back?
Yeah.
It's so true. Or I'm sure people say it to you guys all the time. I always have strangers saying to me, God bless you, God bless you. Like, you're so inspirational. And I'm like,
Trying to prove in public.
But what's so intriguing is if you knew me as a person and said, you're so inspirational, then I would say, thank you so much. But if you're seeing me for 0.2 seconds out in the wilderness and I'm inspirational to you, then you should set the bar higher. Like,
yeah, because you don't know. I might be a total jerk.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just existing.
You have no clue. Well, and that's the thing when people say things. So I'm trying to think of what the top words are. So you're an inspiration. You're so brave.
You're so strong.
Oh my God, you're so strong. Or it's like, oh, I don't know how you do it. I'm trying, and I feel like those are okay. So that's 4. What's the 5th? What's like the top 5?
It's so nice to see you in the house.
Oh, yeah, it's so nice to see you out and about.
Yeah.
I'm like, ew.
Yeah, right?
I think those top 5, I think everyone with a disability is going to get those.
Yeah.
I do think that's one of the most fascinating things about disability in general is that it doesn't matter how different our disabilities are.
Yeah.
There are always going to be so many weird little things that we're like, oh my God, yes. Yeah, me too.
Yes. Yeah. Which is comforting, you know? Because
so, yeah. And it makes me curious when you're, dealing with other people who are trying to be helpful in terms of your disability, what are things that people do that you're like, oh my gosh, thank you. That's actually really helpful.
Yes. So for me, I would say one thing that like I always appreciate is when I go out with my girlfriends to dinner and I don't have to ask for someone to read me the menu, like someone just offers to. That's always huge. And then also like it's the worst when you're in big groups and everyone's talking and you don't want to interrupt the conversation to say, hey, can someone take me to the bathroom? So I always appreciate when like one of my girlfriends will check in on me and just say, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Do you need to go? Like, that's huge because like it's hard for me because I can't see when my
Oh,
girlfriends get up to go to the bathroom. So like if someone's getting up to go, I don't know, and I can't be like, hey, can I come
right,
with you? So like that is a
Yeah.
huge help for me
right.
for sure. And then I think also just like I do where we live, there's a gym here and I do workout classes every morning there. And what's huge is like people in the class will help me because obviously, you know, I'm not always going to know what the teacher's talking about or what to grab or, you know, if I'm like, it's always funny when we'll be doing like Romanian deadlifts and you have to bend over and I won't know that I'm a foot from the wall. And if I was to bend over, I'm going to break my teeth on the bar. And so like, I always appreciate when someone in the class will
Oh,
run up and be like, Marin, like grab my arm, you're about to run into the wall. So
That's
yeah, that always comes in
I
handy,
mean, that's not much to ask. Just
right?
please stop me if I'm gonna run into a wall. I think that's yeah.
Pretty understandable.
Yeah, you're definitely not asking for a lot
I
there.
hope not.
I mean, and hey, I have definitely done it too. My husband recently had to glue a piece back onto our door frame because, you know, when you run into it with a power chair, you literally just break off pieces of your wall.
Oh wow, I believe it. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh. And so are you guys both
Yeah,
in like do you guys prefer electric or manual chair?
I'm in my
I prefer power just for
Yeah.
comfort because since I don't have core stability in my torso, and so when I'm in a manual chair, my body tires out really fast because you're struggling to balance and hold your body up.
Yes.
But I don't, Erin, I feel like you're a lot more comfortable in a manual chair than I am.
That's how I was like you were, Laura, for a while. And then the past year, I've kind of transitioned more fully to the manual chair just because I feel like it's good cardio for me. And it
Hmm.
has forced me to be stronger. Like my neck and shoulders sitting up straight has made me stronger. But I couldn't have done this like even 3 years in. I wasn't strong.
Okay.
Like I think Laura will get there. I mean, I started doing that, what, 6.5 years in.
Yeah.
And like people treat I was thinking of this earlier when you said people treat you different with your white cane. People treat you
Hmm.
different in your power chair versus your manual chair.
Really?
Oh yeah, because people think you're way more disabled than you are.
Yeah.
People stare a lot more, and especially like I have my headrest on behind me. When I go out in public in my power chair, I usually take the headrest off,
Yep.
and it helps a lot to reduce the staring.
It's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, because people do that a lot, and it's just, and it's interesting that you were saying that like you can't see people stare at you, but you can kind of feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can, when I'm not looking at somebody, I can still kind of feel it.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I don't know who it is, but somebody back there is being nosy.
Yeah.
And then they won't like people won't speak directly to you in the power chair. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
why?
That's
Strange. Or like I'll get people who talk to like my husband or my friends who are with me more than me, and I'm just like, hello,
right.
I'm right here.
Like I'm
It's
right.
very
Stop
strange.
talking about me in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that. Wow. But I
Yeah.
didn't
I
even.
mean, in some ways, I do think that because I have gone out in public as much without my husband, I think I'm shielded from a lot of these comments. But yeah, it's definitely nobody shields you from the staring.
Yeah.
And the farther you get from a city, the more staring there is.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
was one thing that, you know, I always,
Yeah.
as I said in the beginning, I always try and find the silver lining. And that a lot of the times comes in the form of joking. And so, like, that was one of the first things I would joke
Mm-hmm.
about after losing my sight was at least I don't have to look at all these people staring at me. Like, that's definitely something I am grateful for constantly because
Mm-hmm.
I could see that being very
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I mean, I already feel insecure being
Mm-hmm.
disabled. So to add that added layer of having other
Mm-hmm.
people stare at you like you're not human, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I,
I also wonder, do you feel like you imagine that people are staring at you maybe more than they are or less?
I think
Or
less.
do you just not think about it?
Like at the beginning,
Okay.
it's funny because I feel like I was so focused on recovering at first. And to be honest, like, so I did have brain surgery. So like I was recovering in that aspect too. I wasn't fully with it, which made it a lot easier to kind of drown out all the like intrusive thoughts because I just wasn't capable of having them. And then I feel like the longer I was blind, the more comfortable I got with forgetting about sight entirely. So more often than not, it's more reflection. Like I'll come home after going out and I'll think to myself, oh my gosh, wait, people could see me the whole time we were out tonight. I wonder if I did anything embarrassing. But I feel like for me, when I first lost my sight, my biggest issue was I was afraid constantly. It was a function of, I think there's a creepy person watching me, thinking I'm vulnerable, and they could easily kidnap me. Like, those thoughts happened on a daily basis. And it finally got to the point where I was like, I need to do something about this. So that's when I started taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lessons because I was like, I have to know how to defend myself. Yeah, that was like a
That's a great idea to combat that feeling.
Yes.
I have that same feeling anytime.
Yes, right?
If I were going to be in public on my own, I don't think I'd want to be in a manual chair because I would feel so much more vulnerable.
Yes.
In a manual chair. But then also I don't ever want to be home alone with like contractors or repair guys. Because, you know, we're automatically, you know, more vulnerable targets.
Yes. Scary. And being
I mean, I was already a true crime buff and scared of everything before, so now it's just that little bit more.
Me too. Oh my God.
But at least in a power chair I can run away real.
Yeah, that's true. And well, I'm also like, because for me, another fear when it comes to like being home alone, and if there was someone else, you know, whether it's landscapers or anyone, you know, like not having my phone easily accessible. And I wonder if that's the same for you guys. Like, am I going to be able to call 911 quick enough? Because
Oh yeah, I have an Apple Watch because my husband was scared of that for me.
I was about to ask that. That's smart that you have that because you just use voice to control it.
Yeah, because it just connects to your phone, and so even if your phone is anywhere in the house or something, you're going to be able to use it, and so that definitely helps. Where it makes me feel a bit more secure. But yeah, I mean, if I'm home on my own and nobody's here, I'm not answering the door.
Oh,
I'm just not even going to take that risk.
Never. That won't happen.
Same.
It's true though. Yeah. Just being a young woman in general, it's just innate. You know, you're gonna have those fears because that's just what you're taught. But it's
Well, that's very unfortunately the world that we live in. But
and it's funny sometimes, like when I get scared of something, I'm like, would I be scared of this anyway? Like it's easy to blame it on the disability, but it's not always the disability.
But I mean, there are weird things in terms of like online safety. Like Erin and I have talked about the weird people that contact us online, and we've actually had one of the same creepy creeps contact us both online. And I described him to her, and she went, "Oh, I know that guy. I know who you're talking about."
Yeah. Well, and one thing I've wondered is like when I use the hashtag like blind or like accessible or things like that, I almost wonder if these creeps look up those hashtags to then find like vulnerable disabled people because I constantly have message requests on Instagram from people trying to scam me, send me creepy messages. And I'm just like, I might be blind, but I have a working brain. Like, you think I'm just going to send you my address and my like Venmo information? What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think they definitely do that because I have, you know, aside from my work with the 10%, I have my own YouTube channel that I put just random content on here and there. I put one video up where I said that I like Bombas socks better than regular socks because regular socks fall off my feet when I'm shifting my legs around. And of course, it had feet in the title. And that video got like 2,000 hits in 2 days.
Because the foot fetish. So weird.
And I was like, oh, wow, this video really got a lot of traction. That's so weird. And my husband was like, you realize because it's feet, right? And I was like, oh no, it's feet.
Oh, that's so uncomfortable. Oh my God.
I wonder if there's devotees like in the blind community.
Oh, I bet there is. I bet there's devotees that are specific to every disability.
Yeah, there must be.
And by devotee,
I bet there is. I feel like we should do like an AMA or something like. It'd be a terrifying AMA.
Yeah, it really would be. But that's someone who like fetishizes your disability. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and usually like there's a very specific aspect of the fetishization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely gone down rabbit holes with this research because I do think it's really fascinating. I mean, it's weird, but it's fascinating.
No,
and one of them is usually like the biggest one, I think, is they want to take care of you.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if that person was in a relationship with someone with a disability, you know, they have an ulterior motive to put you in more vulnerable situations, which just doesn't seem.
Ooh.
That seems scary.
Yeah.
That seems very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be worried. I would be like, so if one day I were to walk again, would you not like me anymore?
Yes.
I mean, not that is a concern with us,
Yeah.
but yeah, I totally.
But that's what I would think. I'd be like, oh, just like me with disability.
Well, and I would be so curious too if two people actually were in a consensual disabled devotee relationship and everyone's cool with it. I mean, I guess there's somebody for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's funny to think about that there probably are plenty of people who have that dynamic, but you know, there's a lot more where it's creepy devotees just targeting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crazy world out there.
Well, yeah, I feel like it's easy to talk about that forever because there's so much about.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, we lost Marin.
She was lagging a little bit. Might be.
Okay. Maybe she'll pop back in. What?
Was I not on camera this whole time?
No, you were on camera for most of it. It was only in the last few minutes that I was like, oh wait, where'd you go?
That's so strange because it says
the internet
camera's on.
Well, you know, hey, we were just talking about how technology has made everything so much easier for us, and then there are always moments when it fails, and then we're just like, well, luck.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, what we can do is just I would just love to hear your opinion on different ways that we can make things more accessible for anybody in the blind community in terms of our videos or what we're putting out. So you're officially going to be one of our consultants
I would
on
love
this.
that. And one thing I'll say, Erin, you do a really good job with video description. Like I've noticed on your Instagram posts how you put VD and then you'll give a description. I love that. It's super helpful. So that's huge. But
that's true. You are good at that. I need to work on that a lot.
I mean, so for your YouTube videos that I've watched on your 10% community channel, they're perfect. You don't have to change a thing because I feel like your format is so like blind friendly.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. Like, I don't think there needs any video description for those.
Oh, thank you. Well, this has been great, and we will definitely talk to you more in the future, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I can't hear you, but thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Talk again soon.